So, by the title of this video, you may be wondering how taxation and social conservatism can go hand in hand. Well, the simple answer is that when it comes to the internet, all the ills that social conservatives or even more economically conservative people have a problem with, taxation could aid them in just every avenue. And I will go into detail. Piracy. If there was taxation on websites, that would mean that they would have to report what they were doing with the website, where things were coming and going, etc. And that would slam down on piracy. Child pornography. Pretty much any kind of pornography, because we all know most pornography is borderline illegal anyway, even when it's between consenting adults. So, all the ills people have of social issues could be solved tomorrow through a proper taxation. Now, mind you, this would not get rid of the problem entirely. Nothing could. That would be ridiculous. It's a fantasy to believe that you will somehow overnight get rid of all the social ills of the world, or that you could ever get rid of all of them. But if you can get rid of 98% of them, why not? And that's what taxation would do. If you were to have a tax on websites themselves, if you were to tax the owners of websites, and let's face it, moderators love to tout how they're the owners of websites, well, then you wouldn't have these kinds of problems. Do you think 4chan would be able to sustain itself if it had to be taxed? Do you think Facebook, Google, things like that would be able to do all the shady things they do if they were being taxed? But see, that's the problem. Most of the people in America do not want taxation. They always see taxation as inherently bad, even when it has nothing to do with them personally being taxed. An internet tax would not affect you. It would not affect you paying more to buy internet monthly. It would not cost you more as an individual based on your income or sales tax or anything like that. It would simply be taxing a certain group of people. It would simply be taxing those that own property. And just as there's home tax and there's auto taxes and taxes on other things you own, why is it so ridiculous to have an internet tax? And if you ask me, I think it's more dangerous, the internet run uninhibited, than to not tax the cars and your home and things like that. Those things cannot directly hurt people. The internet can directly and is directly hurting people every moment of every day. So the simple answer here is to tax it. And that's what I try to, say to these senators and representatives and things like that. I try to appeal to their sense of reason and say that, get behind an internet tax. I don't care exactly how the internet tax functions. I offer some ideas. But at the end of the day, if you want to solve these problems, you have to consider taxation. And unfortunately, the right wing just doesn't want to do that. The right wing never wants to solve a problem with taxation. They always just want more social implications. In other words, something else to charge you with as a felony or as a misdemeanor or something to that effect. And that's just not going to work. That's just not efficient. What is efficient is taxation. And I know this because I know how these libertarian tards think. I know that at the end of the day, the reason why they side with the Republicans and why they're even willing to tolerate the social conservative element is because they know that social reform is not nearly as powerful as a taxation, as economic reform. They know at the end of the day that a social change can be undone in a generation. They know that social change can, be twisted around, moved around through. They can take different twists and turns to get around it. But they cannot get around an economic reform. They cannot get around a tax. They either pay the tax or they don't. And not paying your taxes is far more dangerous than, breaking the law when you're doing some social bullshit. So that's why they worry so much about the economy. That's why they worry so much about taxation. That's why they hate liberals so much more than conservatives, even though liberals tend to agree with them 8 out of 10 times when it comes to social issues. Because they know that liberals, whether they realize it or not, are more dangerous to their free market ideology than the conservatives ever could be. And when you know this fact, you have to know how to combat this evil. And the way you combat this evil is through economic reform. I guarantee you, any problem you have with the internet could be solved overnight with the taxation. And it would not affect you, the individual, just browsing the internet, going on StumbleUpon or Bing or whatever, but it would affect the people that own these websites, and it should affect them. They're the ones controlling the content. They're the ones controlling your content. They're the ones controlling every facet of the internet's content. And they need some kind of regulation. They should give something back. And, I don't know if the tax would be enough to, completely reduce the deficit. I don't know if the taxation would be enough to, turn the economy upside down and everybody suddenly be living better, and you'd have better infrastructure and you would have more subsidies and more welfare and things like that, because we'd be making so much money off of the taxation. I guarantee you'd be making a lot of money off the taxation, and through that you can improve those social ills. But that's really not the point here. The point is, if you do believe that the internet is raunchy, wrong, borderline criminal, then you need to tax it. The only way you're going to make it more legitimate is by forcing it to abide by legitimate practices. Only illegitimate criminal businesses operate without any kind of taxation. The Mafia doesn't pay taxes. The Crips and Bloods don't pay taxes. But, McDonald's pays taxes. Not very much, but I'm sure they do. Your local mom and pop shop pays taxes. Every other legitimate business pays taxes. And that's why even though they get away with shit, it's never to the extent that the criminal organizations get away with. And it has nothing to do with the fact of what they're selling or what they're buying or, anything like that. It's just the fact that, when one element is not taxed at all, when not being surveillanced at all, when not being intruded upon on any level, then that's what you're going to get. So the only way the internet is going to get better is if you tax it. And until people realize that, it's not going to get any better. I don't want to hear people tell me about all the children being molested and attacked. I don't want to hear about all the cyberbullying and cyber terrorism. I don't want to hear about all the hackers and anonymous terrorizing Scientology and bullshit, because you can easily solve this. You just don't want to. You don't want to come to that conclusion because it contradicts your ideology. And you're going to contradict yourself in life. And that's why I keep saying you got to choose your battles. In life, you have to decide what is the far greater evil to worry about. You have to prioritize things. And sometimes you just got to suck it up and side with people that you may not necessarily like. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. And there are going to come times when you're going to have to shake hands with the devil in order to beat another devil. So until you realize that, nothing's ever going to get done. So, you have to decide that. Do you want to believe that the internet is terrible the way it is today, with all the racketeering, the fraud, the, e-begging, the pornography, the, just the ills and debauchery and shit like that? Or do you want to believe that taxation is just so bad and, oh my god, giving the government a little bit more percentage of corporate money and maybe even individual money is just inconceivable? So you have to pick. You have to choose. Because if you don't choose, someone else is going to choose for you. And clearly they've made the choice for you already because, look at the internet. So until you decide to make a choice, the private industry has already made their choice, and that choice is being run to its natural conclusion as we speak. So I suppose that's all I have to say for now.